That morning, my wife texted, "Plans changed. You're not coming on the cruise." Then added, "My ex is going instead." It was 6:12 a.m., the hour when the street outside still looked like a half-finished movie set. Porches dim, sprinklers ticking, the world pretending it was peaceful. The coffee maker made its last gargling breath and went silent. Somewhere down the block, a garbage truck coughed like it hated its job. I stared at my phone until the screen timed out and went black, and my own face looked back at me for a second. 36, unshaved, the kind of tired that doesn't go away with sleep. I didn't feel a lightning bolt. I didn't hear a dramatic chord. Mostly, I felt confirmed. Lena had always been good at changing the rules mid-game, then acting surprised when you noticed you were playing a different sport. The cruise was supposed to be our reset. That was the word she used. Reset. Like we were a router. I set the phone face down on the counter, poured coffee into a chipped mug, and listened to the quiet. In the pantry, the dog's nails clicked as he shifted his weight, waiting for breakfast like nothing had happened. My first thought wasn't anger. My first thought was, she did it in writing. I opened the text again and took a screenshot. Old habit. I work in risk for a living, compliance, contracts, the boring part of life where people swear they didn't say what they absolutely said. I've spent years in conference rooms watching men in expensive suits sweat because of a single line in an email. Then I breathed in through my nose and out through my mouth. Slow, measured, like I was lowering a fragile package onto a table. I typed one sentence. "Okay, have fun." I hit send quietly. That was it. No question marks, no begging, no "who is he?" even though the answer was already sitting there, grinning behind the words. Dylan Hart, the ex from before me, the guy whose name kept popping up like an ad you can't block. The phone buzzed again. Not a reply. A calendar alert. Final payment. Cruise package. Today. I smiled, but there wasn't anything happy in it. "Eat," I told the dog. He wagged his tail like my approval was still worth something. I fed him, took a shower, put on a clean shirt, and by 7:08 I was in my car, heading to my office like it was any other Thursday. The only difference was that a door had opened in my head, and I already knew what was on the other side. At the office, the elevator smelled like somebody's cologne and somebody else's regret. I nodded at a receptionist who knew my name but not my life. My badge beeped. The building accepted me. I sat at my desk, logged in, and pulled up our accounts. People think revenge is a burst of emotion, a punch, a scream, a thrown glass. For me, it started as a checklist. The joint checking account had been opened 2 years into our marriage after Lena insisted it was more adult. We used it to pay the mortgage, utilities, groceries. She liked saying "our" when it meant my money was available. I didn't touch her personal accounts. I didn't have access anyway, and I didn't want it. What I had was my salary, my savings, my credit, and the legal right to stop funding someone who'd just told me I wasn't invited to my own marriage. I called the bank first. Speakerphone. Calm voice. "I'd like to remove my direct deposit from the joint account," I said, "and I want to freeze the joint debit card and cancel the authorized user privileges tied to my credit cards." The representative asked the questions they have to ask. Verification. Mother's maiden name. Last 4 digits. The sterile, polite rhythm of modern life. When she was done, she said, "The joint account will remain open unless both parties agree to close it. But we can restrict the cards and issue new ones under your profile." "That works," I said. Then I called the cruise line. The booking was under my name. Lena had insisted on that too. "You're better at details," she'd said, smiling like a compliment. She'd wanted me to do the work so she could enjoy the result. I sat there while the hold music played bright and cheerful. When the agent came on, I told her I needed to cancel. There was a fee. Of course there was. There's always a fee when you try to undo a mistake. Do you want the refund to go back to the original card? She asked. No, I said. Put it on this one. I gave her the number of my personal card, the one Lena never bothered to memorize. By noon, the refund had started processing, and my phone was lighting up with Lena's calls. I didn't answer. Not because I was being dramatic, because silence is a kind of language, and I wanted her to hear every syllable of it. At 12:47, she left a voicemail. Grant, she said, breathless, like she'd been running. What are you doing? I just got an email about the cruise. I deleted it without listening further. I opened a folder on my computer labeled Home, and inside that, a subfolder labeled Documents. I had the deed, the mortgage, the insurance, the prenup. The prenup had been Lena's idea, not mine. She'd been starting a boutique marketing firm and wanted clean separation if anything ever happened. She said it with that laugh of hers, like a joke you were supposed to join in on. It wasn't a joke. The house was mine. It had been mine before we got married. Lena had moved in and filled it with her things and her opinions, but the paperwork was cold and loyal. It remembered the truth. At 1:30, I called a realtor named Marcy, who'd been sliding postcards into our mailbox for months. Interested in selling? In big, friendly letters. When she answered, I said, Do you have investors who can close fast? There was a pause. Surprise, then interest. How fast? She asked. 3 days, I said. Another pause. Then, I have someone. At 2:15, I called my attorney, Ed Kaplan. He'd done the prenup. He already knew the contours of my life, the way a mechanic knows the underbelly of your car. I'm done, I told him. He didn't ask with who. He didn't ask why. He just said, Okay, we'll do this clean. Clean. That word again. By 4 hours, I had initiated a process that looked boring from the outside and felt like stepping onto ice that was finally thick enough to hold me. On my way out of the building, I passed a mirror in the lobby and caught my own eyes. They looked calmer than they had in months. At home that night, I packed one suitcase. Not everything. Just enough. In the kitchen drawer under the spare batteries and the takeout menus, I placed one thing behind intentionally. A printed copy of Lena's text, crisp and black on white paper like a receipt. I didn't know when she'd find it. I just knew she would. And when she did, she wouldn't be able to say she'd imagined it. Lena didn't come home before midnight. She'd been busy, she'd said earlier in the week. Meetings, drinks with clients, hair appointment, the kind of schedule that leaves no room for questions unless you want to be called controlling. I lay on my side of the bed and watched the ceiling fan cut the air into slow pieces. Around 1:11 a.m., my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A photo loaded. Lena, on a boat deck. Her hair pulled back, lips glossy, a champagne flute tilted toward the camera. Dylan Hart's shoulder was in the frame, close enough that it might as well have been his hand around her waist. In the corner, a timestamp overlay read 10:38 p.m. Below the photo, she says you're cool with it. No name, no signature, just that. I stared at it until my eyes went dry, then I saved it. Screenshot, download, backup. You don't have to be paranoid to keep evidence, you just have to have been burned once. I didn't reply. I set the phone down and listened to the house. The fridge hummed. The hallway creaked with settling wood. Somewhere outside, an animal ran through leaves and disappeared. At 2:04, Lena came in. I heard the garage door roll up, then down. Footsteps, keys in the bowl, a soft thump of her purse landing on the entry table. She stood in the doorway of our bedroom for a moment, her silhouette cutting a slice out of the dim light from the hall. You're awake, she said, not sounding sorry. I was, I said. She walked in like she belonged there, like she hadn't just told me I was an optional accessory. She smelled like expensive perfume and stale air from someplace crowded. You didn't answer my calls, she said. I was busy, I said. She gave a short laugh. Right. She sat on the edge of the bed and kicked off her shoes. "So," she said, casual, like we were discussing grocery lists, "about the cruise." I waited. She sighed, like I was the problem. "Dylan's been going through a rough time, and honestly, you and I—" She let the sentence trail off, then tried again with a different tone. "You've been checked out. I needed something fun." I didn't move. My voice stayed even. "And you decided I wasn't coming." "It's not like that," she said quickly, and the speed of it told me she'd practiced. "It's just, he got the room upgrade, and it made sense, and you don't even like cruises." "I paid for it," I said. "You were going to come," she snapped, then softened. "But it was a test, Grant. I needed to see if you'd fight for us." There it was, tiny and ugly and honest. A test. The word hit the room like a bad smell. I sat up and looked at her. "So you told me you were taking your ex on our cruise to see if I'd beg." She rolled her eyes. "Don't make it sound insane." "What would make it sound normal?" I asked. She leaned back, crossing her arms. "You always do this. You turn everything into some legal deposition." I almost laughed. It would have been funny if it hadn't been my life. "Are you done?" I asked. "What?" Her eyes narrowed. "Done with what?" "With the speech," I said. "With pretending you're the victim." Her mouth opened, then closed. She wasn't used to me interrupting her story. "You're being cold," she said finally. "I'm being accurate," I said. She stood up, angry now. "Fine, be dramatic, but I'm still going, and you're not going to ruin it." I nodded once, like she'd told me it might rain. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay?" "Okay," I repeated. Something flickered behind her eyes, a crack in the confidence. She expected shouting, tears, negotiation, a chase. Instead, she got my calm. She turned away, climbed into bed, and faced the wall. "Don't punish me," she said, softer. I stared at the fan as it kept turning, cutting the air into slow pieces. "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm just listening." In the morning, she left at 5:30 for the airport. She didn't kiss me goodbye. I didn't watch her go. I just listened to the garage door close and felt the house exhale. Then I got up and started the next item on my checklist. Selling a house is supposed to be emotional. You're supposed to walk through empty rooms and remember birthdays, fights, quiet Sundays, the smell of your wife's shampoo. I didn't have time for nostalgia. Marcy brought an investor offer that afternoon. Cash, as is. Close in 72 hours. The price was lower than market, but not insulting. It was the price of speed. I signed. Ed Kaplan drew up the separation filing the same day. Not a dramatic, scorched earth thing. Just a clean petition anchored to the prenup, requesting immediate financial separation and exclusive use of the property. "Once she's served, the joint stuff will freeze fast," Ed said. "It's better if you don't poke her until then." "I'm not," I said. That wasn't entirely true. I was poking her, just not with my hands. I went through the house and took what was mine. Tools, personal documents, my grandfather's watch, the photo of my mother that Lena had once called creepy, because she didn't like being watched. I left Lena's things exactly where she'd put them. Her dresses in the closet, her hair products in the bathroom, her framed photo from a girls' trip where she'd posed with sunglasses and a fake smile. The house would look normal when she returned. Normal is the best trap. On the second night, I slept on the couch. Not because I couldn't sleep in the bed, because I wanted to feel what it was like to be a stranger in my own living room. At 9:19 p.m., Lena texted, "Stop being weird. Answer me." I didn't respond. At 10:03, she sent another. "I talked to the cruise people. They said you canceled. Fix it." At 10:20, Grant. At 10:41, "If you think you can punish me, you're wrong." At 11:07, a call. I let it ring. I sat there with the dog's head on my foot and watched the TV without seeing it. Around midnight, a new email popped up on my phone, an automated message from the gala committee Lena volunteered with. It had her name in bold. Due to tonight's incident, your spouse's volunteer credentials have been revoked effective immediately. I didn't know what the incident was. I didn't ask, but I had a guess. Lena liked attention. She liked rooms full of people who nodded when she spoke. Taking that away from her wasn't illegal. It was just effective. I forwarded the email to Ed, then archived it. On day 3, the buyers came with the final documents. A notary met me at a coffee shop across town. I signed my name in blue ink on line after line. The notary checked my ID like she'd never seen a driver's license before. When it was done, she slid the papers back into a folder and smiled. "Congratulations," she said. I almost told her what kind of congratulations it was. Instead, I said, "Thank you." I drove home one last time and stood in the empty living room. The furniture was gone. The walls held faint rectangles where pictures had been. In the kitchen drawer, the printed text waited like a landmine. I clipped the dog's leash on, took him to the car, and looked back at the house. It wasn't a home. It had just been a building where Lena and I played house until she got bored. I locked the door and slid the key into the mail slot for the buyers. Then I drove out of the neighborhood and didn't look in the rearview mirror. I had a motel reservation in a city 2 hours away. An anonymity city. The kind of place where nobody asks questions because everyone is too busy trying not to be noticed. I checked in under my own name. I wanted my choices to be mine. In the room, I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the air conditioner rattle like it had secrets. My phone buzzed. A voicemail notification. Lena. I didn't listen. I turned the phone off and let the silence settle over me like a blanket. Somewhere out on the ocean, my wife was drinking with her ex and telling herself I was still predictable. She was wrong. The cruise lasted 5 days. I know because Lena posted every one of them like a status report. The first photo was a sunset over water, captioned, "Finally breathing again." The second was her feet by the pool, captioned, "Self-care." The third was Dylan's hand holding hers, cropped to look accidental, captioned, "Sometimes the past comes back for a reason." I saved them all, not because I was jealous, because patterns matter, and public patterns become evidence. On day 2, Ed called me. "She's been served," he said. "In the mail?" I asked. "In person," he said, "at the cruise terminal when they came back for an excursion." I pictured it. Lena in a bright dress, sunglasses on, expecting a selfie moment. A process server stepping in with a calm smile and papers in a manila envelope. "Grant," she'd probably said, loud enough for people to hear. "Are you kidding me?" Ed's voice pulled me back. "She's furious." "Good," I said. He cleared his throat. "You should avoid direct contact. Let her say what she needs to say to me." "I will," I said. After I hung up, I walked to the motel ice machine and filled a bucket because my hands needed something to do. Back in the room, I turned my phone back on. 38 missed calls. Messages stacked like bricks. "What did you do?" "We can talk about this." "Okay, you made your point." "This is abusive." "I'm calling the police." "Answer me right now." Then one from Dylan, a number I recognized from the unknown photo. "Man, you're overreacting. She didn't do anything wrong. Chill." I stared at that one for a long time. The arrogance wasn't surprising. Dylan had always been a guy who thought consequences were for other people. I replied with one line. "Tell her to check the kitchen drawer." Then I blocked the number. On day 5, Lena came home. I wasn't there, but I followed the story through the little windows she didn't realize she'd left open. The electric company texted my number because I was the primary contact, confirming disconnection completed. The internet provider emailed, "Service terminated." Then Marcy texted, Closing done. Congrats again. At 6:02 p.m., Lena finally texted something that looked like fear instead of anger. Where are you? At 6:05, Grant, please. At 6:08, I'm at the house and the locks don't work. At 6:13, there's a for sale sign. At 6:19, what did you do? I didn't respond. At 6:24, she sent a photo of the printed text I'd left in the drawer. My words, her words, trapped on paper. Her message, you're insane. I stared at it and felt something like relief. Not joy, relief. Like I'd been carrying a weight for years and someone finally took it off. At 6:31, the calls started again. I let them ring. At 7:10, she left another voicemail. I listened to that one. Grant, she said, and her voice cracked on my name like she didn't recognize it anymore. You can't do this! I'm locked out! Where are my things? Where's the dog? Where is everything? She swallowed. I could hear it. Call me, she said softer. Please. Then, the sound of something hitting a wall, maybe her fist, maybe her phone, and the line went away. I sat on the motel bed and watched my hands. The dog was sprawled on the carpet, belly up, snoring like he'd never heard the word divorce in his life. I stroked his ears and thought about Lena, standing on the porch of a house she'd assumed was hers by default. She hadn't understood the rules. Now she had to learn them. And learning hurts. People like to imagine the moment a man snaps is loud. They want a scene, a scream, a broken mirror. My snap sounded like a printer. Ed's office emailed me the temporary orders. The court didn't care about my heartbreak. It cared about addresses and assets and whether either party would drain accounts out of spite. The prenup made it simple. The temporary order granted me exclusive use of the property I no longer owned. That line made me laugh once. Short, dry. The house was sold. The exclusive use was a formality, a ghost clause. The real power was the financial separation. Lena couldn't touch my salary. She couldn't run up my credit. She couldn't use our joint account like a faucet. She could still be Lena. She just had to be Lena on her own dime. At 8:30 a.m., I walked into a bank branch and opened a new account under a new profile. I shifted my direct deposit officially. I changed passwords. I turned on two-factor authentication. The teller smiled like we were doing something wholesome. At 11:01, I visited a storage unit place, signed a short-term rental, moved my boxes into it, locked it, kept the key. At 1:15, I went to a pet-friendly rental listing and signed a 6-month lease on a small apartment above a hardware store. It smelled like sawdust and old paint. It had thin walls and a view of a parking lot. It also had one thing my old house didn't: peace. At 3:40, I walked into a gym, paid for a membership, and asked about personal training. The guy behind the counter looked me up and down, office shoulders, not fighting shoulders, and handed me a brochure. You trying to get in shape? He asked. I'm trying to get harder to move, I said. He laughed like it was a joke. It wasn't. That night, Lena finally stopped calling. Her anger had burned through itself and left smoke. Then, at 9:13, a new number texted me. It was a photo of Lena standing outside a small apartment building, hair messy, eyes red, holding 2 suitcases like she'd been dropped there. The message read, "She's staying with me. You need help. Dylan Hart." The same arrogance, the same assumption that if he spoke, I'd obey. I stared at the picture. The background mattered. I zoomed in. There was a street sign behind Lena, half visible in the reflection of a window. I didn't need to reply. I already had what I needed. I turned off the phone and went to sleep. In my dreams, I wasn't chasing anyone. I was walking through a hallway with doors on both sides. Every door had Lena's voice behind it, asking the same question. Why won't you fight for me? I kept walking. Because I was fighting, just not the way she wanted. 2 days later, I saw Dylan Hart in person for the first time in 7 years. I didn't walk up to him in a parking lot with my fists clenched. I didn't lurk outside his apartment like a bad movie. I sat at a cafe across the street from the marina where he worked, yacht sales, commissions, people pretending to be richer than they are, and watched him move through his day like he owned the air. He was taller than me, but not by much. He wore his hair too perfect, his smile too ready. He slapped people on the back like they were friends even when he'd just met them. At 10:17, he walked out with a couple in matching sunglasses and pointed at a boat like he was gifting them a planet. At 10:39, he checked his phone and laughed. At 11:02, he walked to his car, a black SUV with tinted windows, and tossed his sunglasses onto the dash like he was untouchable. I sipped coffee and wrote down the license plate in my notebook. Risk guy. Details. That afternoon, I went to a hardware store and bought a handful of small things: zip ties, a cheap padlock, a can of expanding foam, and a tire pressure tool. Nothing that would get you arrested on its own, just items you could explain if you needed to. I didn't want to hurt Dylan. I didn't want to be the villain in a story Lena could tell later with tears and mascara. I wanted Dylan to feel watched, because being watched changes people. It makes them sloppy. At 2:08 a.m., I drove to the marina lot. It was empty except for security lights and a guard shack at the far end. I parked 2 streets over and walked. My heart didn't race. That surprised me. When you've been disrespected long enough, your body gets tired of adrenaline. I crouched by Dylan's SUV and used the tool to let air out of 2 tires. Not slashed, not ruined, just low enough that the sensor would scream and he'd have to deal with it. Then I zip-tied a small plastic tag to the underside of his rear bumper. A cheap GPS tracker I'd bought online weeks ago for my own car, repurposed now. It wasn't illegal to track your own property. It wasn't my property, but the tracker was. A gray area. I liked gray areas. Before I left, I placed a single folded piece of paper under his windshield wiper. No threats, no profanity. Just 3 words. Know the rules. I walked away and didn't run. The next morning, I watched from the cafe as Dylan came out, saw the low tire warning on his dash, and frowned. He got out, kicked the tire lightly, then looked around like the parking lot might answer him. He found the note. His face tightened. He looked at the security cameras. He looked at the guard shack. He looked at his phone. Then he laughed, too loud, and waved at nobody. Like he was telling himself it was nothing. At 12:22, my phone buzzed. A text from Lena. "Did you do something to Dylan's car? He says you're stalking him." I stared at it. Her worry wasn't about me. It wasn't about our marriage. It was about Dylan. I typed back. "Tell him to put air in his tires." Then I put the phone down. That night, Dylan drove home, and my tracker showed his route. I watched the map on my screen like it was a heart monitor. He stopped at a bar. He stopped at a convenience store. He stopped at Lena's temporary place. Every stop was a breadcrumb. I wasn't hunting him to hurt him. I was hunting him to understand him. And what I understood was simple. He wasn't brave. He was just loud. The following Friday, rain moved in from the west like it had been hired. By the time I got to the marina, the sky was the color of a bruise, and the wind smelled like salt and metal. Dylan was closing a deal that afternoon. I knew because he'd posted a story, smiling selfie, captioned, "Big Day." People who brag in real time are doing you a favor. I waited in my car until I saw him walk out with a folder under his arm. He was talking fast, laughing, performing confidence. He peeled away from the buyers and headed toward the parking structure, alone. I followed, not close enough to be obvious, not far enough to lose him. In the structure, the concrete amplified every sound. Footsteps, distant cars, the wind whistling through gaps. Dylan's shoes clicked like he wanted the building to know he was important. He hit the button for the elevator. Before the doors opened, I spoke from behind him. "Dylan." He froze, not like a man ready to fight, like a man caught stealing. He turned slowly. His eyes landed on me, and recognition hit, then irritation, then something smaller underneath. "Grant," he said, and the way he said it was like tasting something sour. Wow, you actually showed up. I stepped closer, still a few feet away. I've been around, I said. He snorted. You're doing the crazy ex-husband thing? Congratulations. You're a cliché. I smiled slightly. I'm not your husband. His jaw twitched. You know what I mean. I do, I said. And you know what I mean too. The elevator doors opened behind him. He didn't move. What do you want? He asked. I held up my phone, not toward him, just enough that he could see I had it. You sent me a photo, I said. From an unknown number. He blinked. So? So you lied, I said. You said she told you I was cool with it. He shrugged, but his shoulders were tense. She said you were fine. She said you were too boring to care. The word boring hit like a slap. I let it sit there a moment. Then I stepped in close enough that he could smell my aftershave. I'm going to tell you one thing, I said quietly. And then I'm going to walk away. He tried to hold my gaze. He couldn't. You're not special, I said. You're convenient. She brought you on that cruise to make me beg. She used you as a prop. His face reddened. That's not true. It is, I said. And you know it is because the moment things got real, money, locks, consequences, she ran to you with suitcases like you were a shelter. His eyes flickered. That hit home. You don't know her, he snapped. I leaned in a little more. I know her well enough to know she'll burn you before she saves you. He clenched his fists. The elevator beeped impatiently. You touch my car again, he said, voice low, trying for menace. And I reached out fast and grabbed the front of his jacket just for a second. Not a punch, not a choke, just a grip that told him I could choose more. His eyes widened. I'm not touching your car again, I said. I don't need to. I released him and stepped back. You should check your bumper, I added. There's something there you might not want. Then I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard him swear. I heard him fumble with his keys. I heard the elevator doors close without him. I didn't look back. When I got to my car, my hands were steady. That was the point. Control is the difference between a man who loses everything and a man who takes it back. Lena called me that night. Not text, not voicemail. A real call. The name on the screen made my stomach tighten, but my finger hovered over the decline button like it had muscle memory. I answered anyway. What? I said. Not hello. Not how are you. Just what? There was a pause, like she'd expected a different script. Are you proud of yourself? She asked. Her voice was sharp, but underneath it was a tremble she couldn't hide. I'm eating dinner, I said. You're stalking Dylan, she said. He told me you grabbed him. I didn't hurt him, I said. That's not the point, she snapped. I laughed once. You don't get to decide the point anymore. Silence. Then she said, softer, You're scaring me. That word, scaring, was the first honest one she'd offered in months. I'm not doing anything illegal, I said. I'm not at your door. I'm not posting about you. I'm not calling your job. You sold the house, she said, like she still couldn't believe it. You took the dog. You cut me off. I stopped paying for you, I corrected. You're my husband, she hissed. I was, I said. She inhaled, and I could picture her sitting somewhere with her legs crossed, trying to look composed even if no one was watching. You're acting like I destroyed something, she said. It was a cruise. It was a test. You're turning it into a war. The word destroyed hung there. Ugly. Dramatic. I kept my voice level. Our marriage wasn't gone when you kissed him. You ruined it with your hands on his face. She made a sound like a scoff, and a sob collided. You always talk like you're a judge, she said, like you're above feelings. I have feelings, I said. I just don't hand them to you anymore. She went quiet again. When she spoke, her tone changed. Less anger, more bargaining. Okay, she said. Fine. You proved you can be extreme. You got your little revenge. Now stop. Come home. We can talk. You don't have a home, I said. It came out flat, and I heard her breath hitch. You're so cruel, she whispered. No, I said. I'm done being kind to someone who uses kindness as proof I'm weak. Her voice rose. I didn't use you. You did, I said. You used my quiet as background noise so you could be loud. There was a rustle. Maybe her shifting, maybe her wiping her face. I need money, she said suddenly. Of course. I waited. For what? For a lawyer, she said. For a place. For God, Grant, you can't just leave me stranded. You're not stranded, I said. You have Dylan. He's not. She stopped herself. There it was, the crack. He's not what? I asked. He's complicated, she said, and the way she said it made me picture Dylan's smile, not so confident anymore. I leaned back against my kitchen counter in my small apartment. The dog thumped his tail in his sleep. I'm not your safety net, I said. You're my husband, she said again, like repeating it would make it true. I let the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. Then I said, this was always about the stage for you. You needed an audience. You needed me to chase you so you could feel wanted. You don't know me, she snapped, defensive again. I do, I said. And you know I do. That's why it scares you. She sucked in breath. What are you doing to Dylan? Nothing he didn't invite, I said. That's a threat, she said. It's a forecast, I said. Then I ended the call. I stood there for a long moment, phone in hand, listening to the rain tap the window. She'd said she was scared. Good. Fear is a teacher. And Lena had been failing the class for years. The next piece didn't come from my planning. It came from Lena's own habits. She had a friend named Tessa, loud, loyal until loyalty was inconvenient, the kind of woman who loved gossip because it made her feel important. Tessa had always treated our marriage like a show she was watching from the front row. That Monday, Tessa messaged me on social media. Can we talk? Like, for real? I didn't trust it, but I was curious. We met at a diner off the highway where the booths were cracked vinyl and the coffee tasted like burnt patience. Tessa slid in across from me and immediately looked around like someone might be filming. You look different, she said. I'm tired, I said. She nodded hard. Yeah, so, Lena is losing it. I didn't react. Tessa leaned forward, lowering her voice like the pancakes might eavesdrop. She thought you were going to blow up, she said. Like, yell, beg, make a scene. She literally said, he'll crawl back. He always does. My hand tightened on my mug. I didn't, I said. No, Tessa agreed. You didn't, and now she's freaking out because she can't tell the story right. You're not playing your part. I stared at her. So why are you telling me this? I asked. Tessa swallowed. Her makeup looked too heavy in the daylight. Because she's blaming me, she said. She's blaming everyone. And Dylan. What about Dylan? I asked. Tessa hesitated. Then she said it. He's not as rich as he pretends, she said. He's in trouble at the marina. He's been skimming clients. Not money, like just promises. He sells dreams and then disappears when people ask for paperwork. I held up a hand. Stop. I'm not doing fraud stuff. I'm not calling agencies. Tessa blinked. I didn't say fraud. You said skimming, I said. She waved it off. Whatever. It's not like that. He just lies. A lot. That I could work with. Lies that were social, not criminal. Reputation, trust, the currency Dylan lived on. Tessa dug into her purse and pulled out her phone. I know you're collecting stuff, she said quietly. Lena said you're making a folder, like you're going to destroy her. I'm not destroying her, I said. She's doing that. Tessa nodded like she wanted to believe it. She told Dylan you were violent. I'm not, I said. She told her parents you're having a breakdown, Tessa continued. She told the girls you were cheating first. I laughed, but it sounded like a cough. Of course she did. Tessa looked down at her phone, then back up. I have something, she said. What? I asked. She showed me a group chat screenshot. Lena's words in a bubble, bright and cruel. He'll beg. He always begs. This cruise is the perfect test. I need to see if he still wants me. If he doesn't fight, he doesn't deserve me. Below that, another message from Dylan. Worst case, I'll handle him. Then a laughing emoji from Lena. I stared at it. The casual cruelty. The way they talked about me like I was furniture. Tessa watched my face carefully. I shouldn't be showing you this, she said. But she's not okay, and I don't want to be part of it anymore. Why now? I asked. Tessa's eyes watered. Because she did it to me before, she admitted. She uses people. I thought I was special. There it was again. Special. The lie Lena sold. I took a photo of the screenshot with my phone. Evidence, but not for court. For timing. Thanks, I said. Tessa exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. What are you going to do? I sipped my coffee, tasting bitterness. I'm going to take the stage away, I said. Tessa shivered. That sounds scary. It should, I said. When I left the diner, the sky had cleared. The wet pavement reflected sunlight like a mirror. For the first time since Lena's text, I felt something close to certainty. All the pieces were lining up, and Lena had no idea she'd handed them to me herself. Dylan's entire life ran on belief. Belief from clients, belief from coworkers, belief from women like Lena who wanted a man who looked like a shortcut out of boredom. If you touched his reputation, you didn't have to touch him. I spent a week doing the kind of work I'm good at. Quiet, methodical, legal. I didn't hack anything. I didn't break into accounts. I didn't impersonate anyone. I watched public posts. I listened to conversations in places where people talked too loud. I asked polite questions. People will tell you more than they should if you seem calm and interested. At the Marina Cafe, a bartender named Sam complained about Dylan under his breath. Always taking buyers to the big slips, Sam said, wiping a glass. Always acting like he owns the boats. Does he? I asked, like I didn't know. Sam snorted. He owns a lease payment and a smile. I nodded, like it was nothing. Then I waited for an opportunity that was already on the calendar. The marina hosted a charity auction every December. Boats, vacations, luxury junk, all for a good cause. Lena loved events like that, because they were a chance to dress up and be seen. Dylan loved them because rich people gathered in one place and believed whatever you said if you said it with confidence. This year the auction was on a Friday night. I bought a ticket using my own name. It wasn't expensive. It was charity. They wanted bodies. I saw Lena near the bar, wearing a silver dress that caught the light. She looked beautiful in the way a knife can be beautiful. Dylan stood beside her, one hand on her lower back like a brand. Lena laughed at something he said, and her head tilted the way it used to when she laughed at my jokes. For a second, something in my chest twisted. Then I remembered the text. Plans changed. I walked past them without stopping and went straight to the event coordinator, a woman with a clipboard and eyes that looked tired. Hi, I said. I'm Grant Cole. I wanted to confirm something about the auction package for the Sunset Cruise. She smiled automatically. Of course. I handed her a printed email. It was from the cruise line, the refund confirmation, the canceled booking, the note about name changes. All good, I said. I just want to make sure there's no confusion about who's authorized. My spouse's volunteer credentials were revoked earlier this month, and I don't want any surprises. The coordinator's smile tightened. "Oh," she said, scanning the email. "I didn't know about—" "It's okay," I said, kind. "I'm just being careful." Careful is a word people trust. She nodded. "Thank you for letting us know." I moved on before she could ask more. Then I walked to the silent auction table where donor names were displayed. There it was. Dylan Hart, special access sponsor. He'd donated something. Of course he had. Sponsorship was a costume you could buy. I leaned in, pretending to read, and placed a small envelope under the placard. The envelope didn't contain money. It contained copies of 2 screenshots. Lena's group chat messages about the test, and Dylan's worst case, "I'll handle him." No commentary, no threat, just proof of character. I knew the event coordinator would find it eventually. Maybe that night, maybe after. But it would be found. And once it was, it couldn't be unfound. From across the room, I saw Dylan glance at me and stiffen. Lena followed his gaze and froze like she'd stepped into cold water. Her mouth opened slightly. I lifted my glass toward her, a small toast, like we were strangers who shared a private joke. Lena's eyes flashed. Anger, fear, shame, all at once. Dylan leaned in and said something to her. She shook her head. He started toward me. I turned away and walked into the crowd, letting people become my cover. That's another thing about rich rooms. People are always in the way, and no one notices anything that doesn't involve them. In the hallway near the bathrooms, Dylan caught up, grabbing my arm hard enough to sting. "Hey!" he snapped. "What the hell are you doing here?" I looked down at his hand like it was an insect. Then I looked back up at his face. "Charity," I said. He squeezed harder. "You're trying to embarrass us." "You're doing that," I said. His eyes narrowed. "You think you're smart." "I am," I said, simple. He leaned close, breath smelling like expensive whiskey. "You're going to regret this." I smiled, small. "No," I said. "I already regretted the part where I let her keep writing the script." I pulled my arm free. He grabbed again, but someone walked by and he released fast, flashing a smile like nothing happened. He was careful. Public image. Good. I walked back into the room just in time to hear the host announce a change. "Before we begin," the host said, cheerful, "we have a quick update from our volunteer committee." The event coordinator stepped up, microphone in hand. Her smile was tight now. Her eyes searched the crowd. "We've had a situation with volunteer credentials," she said, "and for the integrity of tonight's event, we'll be adjusting who has access to certain areas, including sponsor lounges." A murmur rippled through the room. Lena's face drained of color. Dylan's smile faltered. The coordinator continued, voice still polite but firm. "If anyone has questions, please see me directly." I watched Lena's friends look at her, confused. I watched Dylan's co-workers stare. It wasn't a public shaming speech, it was worse. It was a polite door closing. Dylan turned toward Lena, jaw tight, and I saw him say, "What did you do?" Lena's eyes darted around, desperate for a story that would fix this. There wasn't one. I slipped out the side exit into the cold night air, letting the sounds of the party fade behind me. In the parking lot, the wind slapped rain against my face. My phone buzzed once. A text from Lena. "Stop." I didn't reply. I drove away, and in my rearview mirror, I saw the venue lights shrink until they looked like they belonged to someone else. The stage was already slipping out from under her. The last move had to be sharp, clean, no lingering, no epilogue, just impact. 2 nights after the auction, the marina hosted an after-hours sponsor meetup on the docks. Small crowd, closed invitations, the kind of place Dylan loved because it felt exclusive. I didn't have an invite. I didn't need one. I parked down the street and walked toward the water. The wind was hard, the kind that makes every breath feel like work. The docks creaked. Boats knocked against their slips with dull thuds. Lights from the marina office glowed through rain like blurred stars. I could see Dylan under the awning talking to two men in coats. He was laughing, but it sounded forced. His shoulders were tight. Lena stood a few feet away, arms crossed, looking like she wanted to disappear. They weren't touching. That told me more than any words. I stepped onto the dock. A security guard spotted me and moved forward. "Invitation only," he said. I showed him my ticket from the charity event. Same venue, same organization. "I'm on the sponsor list," I said calmly. The guard frowned, not sure. I leaned in slightly. "Ask the coordinator," I added. "She knows me." I didn't lie. She did know me now. The guard hesitated, then stepped aside. People like him don't want drama. They want the easiest choice. I walked toward Dylan. He saw me and stiffened like he'd touched a live wire. Lena's eyes widened. Dylan moved fast, intercepting me before I reached the group. "You've got to be kidding," he said, voice low. I smiled. "You said worst case you'd handle me," I said. "I figured I should attend the meeting." His face flushed. "Where did you get that?" "From someone who got tired of being used," I said. Lena stepped forward. "Grant," she hissed. "This is insane. Stop coming to things. Stop stalking us." "I'm not stalking you," I said. "I'm finishing a conversation you started." Dylan's jaw clenched. "This isn't your place." I looked past him at the two men he'd been talking to. One of them had a marina logo on his jacket. The other looked like money. Quiet. Heavy. I raised my voice just enough for them to hear. "Dylan," I said, "do they know you've been using sponsor access codes that aren't yours?" His eyes flicked to them. Panic, just for a split second. The marina guy frowned. "What?" Dylan laughed too loud. "He's crazy," he said. He's her ex." I tilted my head. "Not her ex," I corrected. "Her husband. Still, legally. For now." The money guy's eyebrows lifted. Lena's face went white. "Grant, don't," she whispered. I ignored her. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside were printed copies of the security guard's own words from the gym guy about Dylan borrowing passes, written down, signed by that guy after I'd asked him if he'd be willing to confirm what he'd said in writing. People will sign statements if they're angry enough at someone. Also, inside were screenshots of Dylan's public posts promising things he couldn't deliver, promises of exclusive access and private slips, alongside a simple note from Sam the bartender. "Dylan uses the sponsor lounge like it's his. Not criminal, not jail, just enough to make managers nervous." I handed the envelope to the marina guy. "I'm not asking you to call the cops," I said. "I'm just asking you to look at what kind of person you're trusting." Dylan's hand shot out, trying to grab it back, but the marina guy pulled it away and stared at Dylan like he was seeing him for the first time. "This is a misunderstanding," Dylan said quickly. The money guy took a step back, subtle, like distance was a form of protection. Lena grabbed Dylan's arm. "Let's go," she hissed. Dylan yanked his arm free. "No," he snapped, then softened when he noticed the men watching. "I mean, this is ridiculous." I watched the performance shift on his face like a mask slipping. "You used me," Lena said under her breath, and I heard it because the wind carried voices strange ways over water. Dylan glared at her. "You brought him," he muttered. Lena's eyes flashed. "I didn't—" "Enough," I said louder. Both of them snapped their attention to me. The dock lights buzzed. Rain dripped off the awning in steady threads. Somewhere a boat horn sounded distant and lonely. Lena's hands trembled as she clenched them into fists. "You're doing this because you're hurt," she said, voice cracking. "Because you couldn't handle me moving on." I stepped closer, not invading, just claiming space. "No," I said. "I'm doing this because you thought you could rewrite my reality and call it a test." Dylan scoffed. "Man, you're obsessed." I looked at him. "You're scared," I said. His smile twitched. "I'm not scared. You should be, I said, still calm, because the only thing you have is what people believe about you, and that belief is already falling apart. He swallowed. Lena stepped in front of him like a shield, which would have been sweet if it weren't tactical. Grant, please, she said. Stop. I'll talk to you. We can fix this. I stared at her. Really stared. The makeup, the dress, the way she held her chin up like pride was oxygen. You don't want to fix this, I said. You want to fix the story. Her eyes filled, but it looked like frustration, not remorse. I reached into my pocket again and pulled out my phone. I tapped a file and held it up. A recording. Not secret. A voicemail she'd left me days earlier, saying she needed money and admitting Dylan was complicated. I didn't play it. I didn't have to. This ends tonight, I said. Dylan barked a laugh. Or what? I leaned in close enough that only he could hear, my voice quiet against the roar of the wind. Or you keep learning what it feels like, I said, when someone else decides the rules. His eyes widened. He looked away first. Then I stepped back and addressed them both, voice steady, words sharp. You wanted me to beg, I said. You wanted me to chase you. You wanted proof I'd stay no matter what you did. Lena's lips parted. So here's your proof, I said. I won't. For a second, neither of them moved. The marina guy cleared his throat behind Dylan. Dylan, he said, firm now. We need to talk inside. Dylan's face tightened. He looked at Lena like she owed him a rescue. Lena looked at him like she'd just realized he wasn't a rescue at all. The money guy turned away, pulling his coat tighter, already gone from the situation. Lena stepped toward me, voice trembling. Where am I supposed to go? I looked at her and felt nothing soft. You're an adult, I said. Figure it out. Her eyes flashed with rage. You're a monster. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. I'm the man you kept daring to exist. Dylan started to say something, another insult, another threat, but the marina guy's hand landed on his shoulder, not gentle. Dylan's mouth closed. Lena stood there in the rain, her silver dress darkening with water, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked small. Not because I'd hurt her, because she'd finally run out of mirrors to hide behind. I turned away and walked down the dock. The boards were slick. The wind shoved at my back. My shoes squeaked against wet wood. Behind me, Lena called my name once, sharp, desperate, almost childlike. I didn't turn around. I walked to my car, started it, and watched the marina lights blur through rain. On the passenger seat, the dog's leash lay coiled like a question. I drove home to my small apartment above the hardware store, where the air smelled like sawdust and honesty. At the red light by my street, my phone buzzed one last time. A notification from the divorce portal. Status updated. Temporary orders entered. I exhaled, long and slow, and felt the last thread between us snap clean in my chest. The light turned green. I drove forward.